Welcome to the MattyRocks Experience in the Zoom sessions interviews. Tonight, I am joined with special guest, Mr. Pete Bercich. Welcome, Pete.
Great to be here. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining me. And I got to tell you, I'm so glad that I was perusing the Vikings website one day when I was at work, and I came across those videos, and I saw you with that purple Charvel, and you were playing
Yep.
some killer tune. And it got me curious, and I was like, Pete's a musician? So I dug a little bit further, and I thought, you know what? I got to reach out to Pete. So thank you for answering my tweet, because here we are today.
Oh, no problem. It's my music, or at least playing guitar, has kind of always been my outlet for a long time. I mean, I'm 48, so I grew up right in the mid 80s when things were great, when music was music, right?
Right.
Listening to Zeppelin all day on the radio, and then come home and try to find Van Halen, and trying to find Slayer, and trying to find all those metal bands, and always wanted to play the guitar. And that was something that back, I remember I had my first guitar was an old Washburn A5 that had been, it was taken apart, repainted, and I had a little PV amp, and I have to listen to the radio and hit record to get a tape to play along. I mean, it's just, and I don't know if you want to go down this road, but technology and everything else nowadays has made everything easier. But my God, if you want to pick up an instrument, learn how to play, holy cow, it's so much easier today than it was 30 years ago.
Absolutely. Before we get into the music, I want to quick ask you, Pete, in light of everything that's going on right now in the crazy world that we're in, and in the situation, how are you and the family doing right now?
Good. I live in Minneapolis. My fiance and my father-in-law, they're in Chicago right now. So just kind of traveling back and forth. But everybody's been good. It's different in every city you go to. It seems different. And up here in Minneapolis, things are lighter. They're a little bit more normal, if that makes sense. But you go to Chicago, and it's you can, if you're anyone who's ever been to Chicago and knows the traffic, I'm sure you're no stranger to traffic out where you are. It's just, there's no one's around. It's just a lot less people. There are a lot more precautions being taken. So it's amazing how the different pockets and different towns where you go to, throughout the United States, at least the upper Midwest, for me, it's just different. Some places it's spacing and masks, and metering the number of people that go into a store. And another, up here, it's not quite as hardcore, if you will, on that end of it. But everybody's doing well, and thank God for that. And I hope everybody listening is doing well, and we're all going to get through this.
What are you doing right now and during these times to keep yourself busy, whether it's sports related or music? How are you keeping yourself occupied?
Right now I am the director of development and head high school football coach at Hill Murray School. It's in East St. Paul. And of course, we're all working remotely right now. So that's kind of my day job, so to speak. And then, there's a little bit of a quiet period now, normally between now and, let's say, June or July, once the camps and everything gets started. That may be prolonged a little bit, but yeah, the summer is kind of, you go out, you have a little bit of fun, especially up here. You have to, because it's so damn cold in the winter. You have to enjoy the summer. So you get out, fish, do those things. And then really, once the middle of July hits here, I mean, it's all football, and that goes full go until the season's over, which could be, toward around January or whatever. So it's kind of a life on, life off existence, in season and out of season.
Right on. Well, I'm glad everything is good for you. I'm glad you're staying busy. As we talked about the music, I want to go back to the early years of your life in Joliet, Illinois. How did music creep into your life?
My parents would listen to music a lot, and that's back when you had it was like a Carnival wagon with a record player, and the
Oh yeah.
speakers on the side. You got to push it around the house and that sort of thing. Um, and then I think living in Chicago, there's one radio station, WCKG, was 105.9, and they played a lot of classic rock. And listening to that kind of music, and I had some friends who had older brothers, and I remember, I remember seeing my first Iron Maiden poster when I was just 11, 12 years old, whatever. Whatever that is, I like that. And then just learning music that way and listening to it that way. And it's so, again, so different, but not everybody you couldn't afford to have all the music you wanted. You had to have a record or a tape. And if you bought a tape and you liked one song, it was a waste of money, right? You wanted a full album. And so you just get together with your friends and kind of swap tapes and swap albums and listen to it that way. But for me, it was always a release. It was always something that went in, and the music that I liked matched up with football and the things that I did. And then I remember when I was 16 years old, going out, and the first real concert I went to was I saw Metallica on their Damaged Justice tour in Chicago, and that was kind of a life changer. Seeing that the music live was unbelievable, and kind of since then it was just going to concerts all kind of all summer long, and then in the meantime trying to teach myself how to play. I never I've never taken a lesson, never sat down seriously with it. I had a couple friends that had guitars, and we'd sit around and monkey with it, but there was just something about playing your favorite AC/DC tune, something like that, and just trying to play along. So it's always been in my dream. One of my dreams has always been football, and I find this, what's interesting is talking to a lot of musicians, is their dream is to play sports, right? They've all, those guys all dream of playing sports, and whether it be baseball or football or whatever. And then for the athletes, so many of us try to be rock stars. You know what I mean? It's kind of it's a very interesting group back and forth, so to speak. And I'll tell you what, it's provided me so much, just because mentally in the game of football, you have to be ready to go. And my music has always been up tempo, kind of, the heavy metal and the hard rock, that kind of stuff. That was always what I would listen to constantly. And, that's kind of it. It's just me. It's just you and your buddies hanging around in Joliet or whatever. And that's kind of what you talked about. And that's, you dreamed of having a Gibson SG like Angus Young or something like that, and just being able to plug into a Marshall one day and blow your ears out.
Was there any specific guitar musical influences that you looked up to and wanted to model yourself after at that young age?
When I was, I just loved AC/DC, because it was just rock and roll. It was just and most of it was pretty simple with the chord structure and things. So it was so when you're a beginner or you're just starting out, those are the songs that you kind of gravitate to because they're easier to play. But once the mid 80s hit, Iron Maiden was always another band that I listened to. I listened to Iron Maiden all the time. They're still one of my favorites. Just how every album sounded so different, and kind of that gallop that they had, and that tempo and the rhythm, obviously, that they had, that you love. And then once the 80s hit, I know I've always loved Dokken. You know, George Lynch was the first time I heard, I had Tooth and Nail. I bought that album or the tape, Tooth and Nail, and it stayed in my radio, I think, for 2 or 3 months, never left. I mean, that guy was so amazing and amazingly fast. I mean, he was just unbelievable. And so Dokken was a big influence. There was a band out of Japan called Loudness. I don't know if you remember them or not. Yeah, they were.
You and I are the same. You listen to a lot of the same stuff.
Right. So, Loudness was another band that out of the 80s that I would listen to. And I mean, obviously, the Van Halens of the world. I remember when 1984 came out, that was another game changer. That album there that album almost made me want to play the drums. But the drums they're just too loud, too big, and really they were too expensive. And then, along the way it was Metallica and what they were doing. And then also when, with Metallica, you had Megadeth. Dave Mustaine has always been ridiculous in his guitar playing and his speed and the detail and the different things that, like the spider chords and all this stuff that he would do that you just someday would dream of doing. And then, there are bands like Slayer who, you listen to Slayer, and I listen to a lot of Death Clock now. I don't know if you're familiar with Death Clock and the Metalocalypse group. It's Metalocalypse it was a cartoon on Adult Swim. And basically it's about a death metal band that gets so big they're about the world's 5th largest economy, and they're just normal musicians. And there are so many parallels in that cartoon and that show between the NFL and how these guys are in the locker room and how dumb they are, that kind of stuff. And and this show, but that kind of real, just God, I mean, real heavy, just that guttural type music. I'm trying to think of some of the other, obviously like Judas Priest was another huge. I mean, Hugh was great. I mean, I love Warren D. Martini with Rat. I thought he was always great. Played a Charvel, so he's a good guy. So, oh man, but Anthrax, Slayer, Megadeth. I mean,
you've definitely covered the gambit of great ones.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a little secret, but MattyRocks has actually had an interview with George Lynch.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy, the speed, it's just the speed and the pinch harmonics, and the guy's technique was, Tooth and Nail. The first song is Tooth and Nail, and you listen to that first song and you listen to the solo that he rips out in that song, and it's like, and when they did that album, they said, all right, we're going to make a statement with this first song, so we're going to do this, and then you just rip. And it's one of the fast, it's an amazing, you listen to that one tune and you're going, oh my God, this guy's sick. And you see him play live, and the amount of precision and everything else that it takes. And I just remember back then, that was it. It was so much more of a tough guy, masculine thing about who could play the fastest and, who could be the loudest and who could be the best. It was very competitive, I think, especially with us as kids, when we all had our favorite bands, and we would argue that my guy's better than your guy, and this guy, that's what you sat around and did, because we didn't have the internet. We didn't have, you couldn't even talk to someone outside your area code because it was too expensive back in the day.
You and I are going to have to go to a show together sometime.
Absolutely. I mean, I sit here and I'm trying to remember now. I mean, all the, Kiss and, all the different bands that, that I've seen throughout, over the years. I mean, it just, live music, is just, it's a gift. And anyone, I don't know if I've ever been to a concert. I mean, I've seen some, some ones where the performances were a little whatever, but, going to it and seeing it live and just feeling it, that you go to these shows and you want to get put through the ringer, right? You want to get wore out. You want to get put through the ringer, and they never disappointed. They never did.
Right. Well, we got to talk about current day in the band that you're in, called Fookey. So how did the band Fookey come together and take shape?
So with my radio and with football, we do a lot of work with KFAN. So KFAN is a Minneapolis radio station. The network of that radio station broadcasts all of the Viking games. So basically the games, when I'm doing the games, it's through them. I'm getting paid through them. I also do a lot of stuff for the Vikings, but getting to know all the personalities. And there's a guy on the number one morning show in Minneapolis, the Power Trip morning show, is a guy named Chris Hockey. And I know, Chris. Chris is a very talented singer, very, very good musician. We sat down one day on the radio, and we're, just one of those days we were talking about it, and I said, we need to get like a death metal band together, right? We need to get some kind of hardcore, bit where we, kind of between a mixture of Gwar and Slipknot, right? You just get all the crap on and just be whoever the hell you want to be, you know what I mean? And just have fun with it. And we talked about this on air, and, it resonated. Now, we have a guy up here named Mark Parrish who played in the NHL for about 12 years. And Mark is like me. He's just he's an athlete who just loves to play the guitar. And so the three of us got this thing together. Chris signed on his guitar player for his band, Tony Williams. It's they're a little bit more of a country band, but all these guys, they love metal in the background, right? And then John Gensmer, our drummer from a local band, and then a bass player, one of the best bass players I think I've ever seen, Sam Van Moore, who's the band up here, small band called Grace Point. And we did it for a party that KFAN put on, and we started this, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And it was in a little stage in a bar. We all had our masks on and our bit, and we had so much fun doing it that, we do kind of, I wouldn't say special events per se, because my schedule is so busy in the fall, and Parrish does stuff for the NHL, and then Chris has his show and his gigs and everything else. So there are certain periods during the year where we can do a show or two, and we've done that. We've had a couple. We do a handful of shows every year, and just enjoy the hell out of it. So it's a blast to practice for and get ready, and there's the closest thing that I've felt. And for so you take someone like me who grew up just playing in the bedroom or playing in the basement, never in front of a person, dreaming of doing it, and then getting to be able to do it 30 years later. It's that feeling before you go on stage and that feeling before you play is the closest thing to a pregame type kickoff that I have ever felt. It is that feeling, and people, it's kind of like when you get up and speak in public, or you get up and do anything like that, you either love that or you hate that, right? Everybody's affected by it. Some people get off on it. Some people, just like I said, they can't stand it and they hate it. And I love it. It was just, I don't even know the first time I played live like that, and I think I did okay. I don't even remember it. It goes by, you know what I mean? It goes by so quickly. But we just had so much fun doing it, and we do more, just cover tunes and things like that. And for the guys in the band who are serious musicians that are writing music, and then the hard part for them is when they play live, they have to promote their own music, which, as I learn more and more about this, that is so hard to do, because you have to get up there every night and get excited about your own music and your own stuff. So to take the pressure off and just play some covers, have some fun with it. For all, we have 6 people in the band, but for all of us, it's fun in different ways. So the established guys just love letting their hair down, so to speak, and just having fun and going nuts. And obviously Mark and I love doing it because it's something that we've dreamed of doing since we were, teenagers.
Absolutely. How did you guys come up with the name?
Fookey we were originally called Vomit, and we had the umlaut above the O and the I for no apparent reason. But I think for marketability, if you will, I don't know. Chris came up with it. He combined football and hockey. I'm the football side, and then Parrish is the key part of it, the hockey part of it. So that's how we ended up coming up with Fookey. So, pretty good name. It doesn't matter. We just go out and have fun.
Always a story behind a name.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I got to tell you, you guys sound really good, and I hope to one day be able to take in a Fookey show.
Oh, it's been, that's kind of it's very easy it's easier to do when the guys around you are so good, right? Chris, again, these guys, 4 of them are professional musicians, and they do such a great job. And then again, when you're out there, and this is the part of playing live that you just have no idea, right? You have no idea, do you wear in-ear monitors or do you not? And if I'm standing on one part of the stage next to my monitor and my mix is heavy with me and with the bass or the drums, I really can't hear what everybody else, so you don't get to hear how you're playing, and you're like, okay, it sounds all right, but you have no idea what the house sounds like until you watch a video or something else, and you watch it and you're like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. And you realize the guy doing the sound is as important, if not more important, than anyone in the band, to how everything comes out, because everything's so, it's pretty plug and play these days, and you just run it to the board and the guy at the board is working his magic. And it's just really satisfying, and it's so much fun to share because it sounds good. You're proud, kind of proud of the product, and you have fun with it.
Right on. Well, good for you guys. It definitely sounds like a cool project, and again, I hope to see it one day soon. Let's transition to the early years of your life with sports. When you were in high school, you played both a combination of baseball and football together. How was it that you derived at heading down the path of football?
Growing up, baseball was my thing. I love baseball. It was, in Chicago, baseball is a huge sport. It's kind of like you come up here to Minnesota, the hockey state tournament. This is for the high school, the high school state tournament. It's a 4 or 5 day affair, and they'll have 18,000 people. They'll fill the XL Energy Center where the Wild play to watch the state finals. And so hockey's huge up here. Back home, baseball, was a huge thing. So, I was a big kid growing up. So but I always played baseball. I played football in 6th grade and 7th grade, and I liked it, and that was really it. Now, my father played in the NFL. He's from Summit, which is just south of Chicago. Went to Michigan State, played football there, and he was on the original Dallas Cowboy team in 1960. So growing up for me, the guy that was in the house and hanging out and, sitting on the couch every once in a while, that guy played in the NFL. You know what I mean? So it kind of, it changes. It's like your dad's an accountant, and you become an accountant. You're like, okay, well, I'm just I'm just doing what my dad did. Right. But football wasn't, growing up as a little kid. We'd watch a little bit on, on the weekends and things like that. It wasn't huge and up front. And I went to a private school, Providence Catholic High School outside of Joliet, because of baseball. They had a very good baseball program. And then my, freshman year, I played football, played basketball, played baseball, because you could, that's what kids did back then. Your season wasn't all year round like things are now. And then after my sophomore year of football, I got a recruiting letter from the University of Michigan, and they thought I was a junior. But as soon as I got that letter, back with the, with the maize and blue and the helmet on there, and then I realized, I'm like, this is real. This can be my ticket out. And no offense being to, I guess every kid's different. I just wanted to get the hell out of the town I grew up in. I wanted to get out. I wanted to just go. And I realized that this was, because had it not been for football, I would either have not gone to college or had to join the military to pay for college if I wanted to go. I mean, my dad was a parole officer. It wasn't something that the whole family did and that everybody, was going to do. So when I realized that I had the ability in football to do that, and then I continued to play baseball, and I was accepted to Stanford. Dennis Green, who coached me with the Vikings, was actually at Stanford at the time. But they said I could play both baseball and football there. I mean, Notre Dame would have let me do the same. But I think once I got to college, I realized the commitment. I did not have time, to play two different sports. But I loved them, loved them both. Football, the great thing about football is the harder you work and the harder you try, the better you do. That's why I hate golf. I can't stand golf because I'm not good at sports where when you try harder, you do worse. You know what I mean? And in baseball, you feel the same, and one day you're 3 for 4 and one day you're 0 for 5. I mean, there's just no rhyme or reason to it, so to speak. And I think that was kind of that attitude part of it pushed me toward football.
Most memorable moment of your high school playing experience?
It was my sophomore year. I played varsity as a sophomore, and we won state. So I look back, that was 1987. So I look at 4 years of high school, 4 years of college at University of Notre Dame, where we were always kind of in the mix. 7 years playing in the NFL, 4 years coaching in the NFL, and then this is going to be my 13th season or 14th season doing the radio. So you're talking 25 years of professional football, 33 total. I was a champion one time, and that was in high school. And so you realize, and you look back and you realize it's hard to do. It's very, very hard to do. And with me coaching high school kids now, it's something I tell them. I'm like, I played the game at every level, but the high school championship still don't laugh at it. Don't think it's nothing big, because it's huge. Absolutely. And you remember it the rest of your life. So no matter, really when that is, you don't, and you learn this playing professional sports, you don't win, you got to really, you don't win all that much. You have to enjoy the wins. And when you are a champion, no matter if it's state and, Division I college football series or whatever, or Super Bowl, I played in 2 NFC championship games. I called 2 on the radio. We lost all 4 of them, unfortunately. Just those opportunities do not come by very often. Right. And when you do reach that pinnacle, and even though you didn't know it at the time, you didn't realize it at the time. But yeah, something that happened back when I was a sophomore in high school, when I was 15 years old. That was the last time I was ever a champion, so to speak. And I'll never forget it. It was great.
On to college. You could have played for many different colleges, but you chose Notre Dame.
Yeah, Michigan State was one I liked because my dad went there, and Stanford. I went out and visited Stanford, and it was half their weight room was kind of outside under a tent, and I didn't quite get that. You know what I mean? I didn't see the ocean until I was 16 years old, and that was because we were going to Puerto Rico to play baseball. We got to go to a World Series tournament when I take that back, when I was 14. So I wasn't well traveled growing up. So going out there, Palo Alto's a different animal, right? And I loved Denny Green. I loved Stanford. It was just, I had Notre Dame, which was 100 miles from my house. And I didn't grow up a Notre Dame fan. I grew up a Michigan State fan. So because you like Michigan State, you can't like Notre Dame, you can't like Michigan. And for academics, because I wanted to get a good degree, and for football at the time in the late 80s, I mean, excuse me, you couldn't get a better combination. So, decided on going there. And that one was a life changer. I'll tell you that.
I know that you played for Lou Holtz for a very, very, very short amount of time, and you didn't have a relationship with him. But was there anything that you took away from Lou Holtz from a distance that you carried with you on to your future in playing football?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Lou Holtz, Lou was, when I remember getting recruited, he comes to your house and he's talking to you, and he has that charm that he can turn on, and then you sign up, you go, you show up, your first fall for camp, and then, he's maniacal, and you look at him and you're like, this isn't the same. Who's this guy? This isn't the guy that recruited me. Right. But there are so many acronyms and so many little things that, that he taught us or would talk about that, are so important. I mean, and just things like, life is not what happens to you, it's how you react to it. You know what I mean? Little things like that. And you listen to it and you're like, yeah, okay, that's great. And then later on in life, you bump into different things, and you have different challenges, and you lose family members. You go through all those different types of things, and you realize, he was right. But Lou, one of the great things about Lou, or the other thing that stuck with me, is he would always say, you got to aim for perfection, because if you want to be perfect, you'll be great. If you aim to be great, you'll be good. If you aim to be good, you'll be average, right? If you want to be average, you'll be below average. I mean, just all those little things that obviously to this day, stick with you. But if you can get through him, anyone who's ever played for him knows that if you can make it through him, you can really, you can make it through anything. I mean, it was the most challenging, most competitive, and the hardest I worked in any 4 years of my life. I mean, that was, you're there, and you're, I look at my draft class. We had Jerome Bettis, who's in the Hall of Fame, Tommy Carter. These guys that were my year. Tommy Carter was drafted in the first round. Aaron Taylor was, Tim Ruddy. We had 9 guys in my class drafted into the NFL. And so you're competing against the best every single minute of every single day. And, that's what we did. That's what we learned to do. And that was it wasn't, let's hang out and have fun and do that. It was compete. And that's how we did it.
With lessons learned. Most memorable moment playing for Notre Dame?
I had a couple. Let's see. I would have to say, my first game, my freshman year, I remember I was on special teams, and I was starting on kickoff and kickoff return. And then it was Thursday night, leaving practice. And I'm thinking, because we started the season against Michigan, and I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to be on the field for the opening kickoff in Notre Dame, Michigan. I mean, literally less than a year ago, I'm playing high school football, right? And then a year later, you're on the field, Michigan, Notre Dame, biggest game of the weekend, that kind of thing. That was an unbelievable realization. My senior year, I do remember I hit Steve Everett in the mouth, and I broke his jaw and knocked out 7 of his teeth. I remember doing that. That was the funny part about it is I didn't even know I did it, not until after the game. But my senior year, we played Florida State. They were number 1, we were number 2. It was the game of the century back then. It's 1993. They actually just replayed it on ESPN not too long ago, like a week ago, and everyone thought that Florida State was going to be, they had work done. They had Brooks at linebacker. They had all this talent, and we ended up beating them at home. So that was one amazing. That was a good day. that was a good day.
Good moments there. Drafted by the Vikings and in Dennis Green, and you were recruited by Denny at one point. You didn't play for him, but how cool was that to come play for the Vikings, and you had already had that recruitment and that interaction with Dennis Green?
Yeah, it was. No one. The only guy, I always say this about the draft. The only guy that's happy with the draft is the guy that was picked first, because everybody else behind him thought they should have gone higher, right? And you talk about a weird day when you've done all this work to get ready, to get prepared for the draft, and you sit down in front of your TV, and this used to be a 1 day or 2 day affair back then. I think it might have been all in 1 day. I don't remember. But you realize where you're going to be spending the rest of your life, or part of, whatever. And who knows? You don't know where in the world it's going to be. And then finally, when I got drafted by Minnesota, there was a couple things. As a kid, we used to come up here fishing out, with my parents. We'd come up here for a couple weeks and just go up to northern Minnesota and fish. So I was familiar with Minnesota. And then obviously having Denny Green be the head coach. And I know when he called me, he's like, "Yeah, I didn't get you 4 years ago, but I got you now. All right, I'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye, click." And the environment, the transition from college to the NFL is unbelievable. So just, I think that little bit of familiarity with Denny settled me down. I mean, and it eased the transition a little. You know what I mean? Right. The first time you practice and you get out there and you're playing against Chris Carter and Warren Moon is at quarterback, and then you have Randall McDaniel, probably the best guard to ever play the game, lined up in front of you. And I mean, Chris Hinton was our left tackle, and he was drafted by the Baltimore Colts, right? Wow. I mean, this guy had been around forever. And, John Randall's a Hall of Famer. He was, playing defense, and it was a whole completely different atmosphere. These are men, completely different speed, completely different everything. So, just having that little bit of familiarity with Denny, helped out quite a bit, and, ended up being a 7-year run, which wasn't too bad.
Describe your relationship with Denny and what he meant to you.
Denny was, tell you what, there were a lot of egos, and the NFL has a lot of egos. And I think Denny was able to manage all those egos. And, Denny, like Lou Holtz, had a way of delivering a message, and he would do it in a way that was easy and everyone understood. The other thing too was everybody was on the same page. And a big thing for Denny was, you have to want to be here. If you don't want to be here, then you're not going to be here. And it's little things like being on time in college. If you were late for a meeting, you didn't go. I mean, you were done. You missed the game. I mean, Lou would leave you. I mean, if you were late for a meeting or whatever, you didn't travel or you didn't play in the next game. I still have nightmares about this, and Denny, his thing was, if you're late for meetings and stuff, I'm not going to fine you, but I will cut you. Meaning you're late twice, and he, eventually, it would happen throughout the year, and just being professional, right? Showing up on time, doing your work. And then when you're done with your work, then you can go home. But, Denny was, God, he had his guys, and he believed in you. And, with Lou, it was one end where and we've all worked for these kinds of people. You have someone that comes in and says, this is how you're doing. And if these numbers don't get to this, you're gone. Right. So it's dialectic. It's like love or hate, right? You're so scared to death, you work. And then they come back to you a month later and they say the same thing. And you're like, okay. And then after a while, you're like, you know what, just fire me. Forget it. I can only do that for so long. Denny was the kind of guy that you didn't want to let down. He was like your dad. Right. You know what I mean? If he was disappointed in you, I mean, or, if you let him down or did something, didn't play well or whatever, you felt like you were letting down you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your father. He had that, that way of putting stuff on you. You didn't have to yell. And you very rarely ever heard him yell. He would just nudge you or say something or whatever. And that was even more, that was worse than anything else. You didn't want to let, everybody loved the guy. You didn't want to let him down. And that's how you motivate, at that level by, as well, because then the NFL, you can't just threaten to cut guys. They won't respond to it. And Denny had a way of bringing everybody together and leading from the front, and he did that.
Well, definitely a man gone too soon, and we definitely miss Coach Green for sure.
Absolutely.
I know that you didn't like particularly playing football for as many years as you did, but you stuck with it all these years, Pete. And I got to ask, what was it that you learned about yourself for all those years of playing football that maybe you didn't realize before?
I think the main thing was when things are at their worst or at the toughest. And I guess I'm fortunate to have gone through those things, training camps, 6 weeks down in Mankato, Minnesota. When the times are the toughest, and when you're at the toughest times in your life, you don't take them month by month, and you take things day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, and you just survive. And every day you wake up, you're like, I made it through another day. If I made it through one day, I can do two. If I made it through two, I can do three. And we used to do that with our camp calendars. You had a calendar and you just rip one page out at a time. The first time you get it, it's like this thick, and then sure enough, one day you wake up and it's the last page, and, and you're through it. And just realize that you are where you're supposed to be, right? You are where you're supposed to be for some reason, whatever reason you may want to think of it, whether you think it's God or whatever. I always believed that I'm there and I am where I am for a specific reason and for a purpose. And like I said, some days are just that way, and you literally have to go minute by minute, day by day. And that lesson, when I was just before my last year in the NFL, in 2000, had a stillborn son, and I look at all the wins and losses in life and and this is just sports, but when something like that happens, that's when that mentality, you go back to that automatically, and you think this is, I never, I didn't know if I could get through it, and you find a way, you do. And it's literally, like I said, it's just day by day, and, sometimes you can't find reasons why, and all those different things, and in anger and blaming and those kinds of things they're not going to get you anywhere. They're just going to retard the process. You just need to go day by day out and just never, ever give up. And, I didn't get through Notre Dame, by giving up easily, right? And too dumb to know when to quit. That was kind of, that's always the joke we all had. But just when you want something badly enough, you just never give up, and you'll end up where you're supposed to be. And a lot of times the biggest failures in life end up being paths to success. And when you meet entrepreneurs, you meet people, different people have done amazing things. Very few of them said, well, I set out to be I set out to be a DJ, and I set out to be a movie star. I set out to, to be a biochemist. They want to go one way, and then they realize that life takes a turn and they go the other. But the one thing that they do is you just keep on working. Right. And again, when I tell people, when they're having a rough time, because we all have those times, just remember that. You are where you are for a reason, and the worse it gets, the shorter the time period, man, whether it's, like I said, day by day. I can tell you, I mean, I remember being in training camp and the first couple of days with pads on and hitting and, you know, having a headache and my neck, it, you know, hurting so badly that I wanted to get through a 5-minute period of practice. You know what I mean? Literally, I can, you know, you remember those. I was just saying to myself, get through the next 5 minutes, get through the next 10 minutes. And then next thing you know, practice is over and you're like, okay, I made it. But so that lesson, you know, that lesson is, it carries over, you know, it's carried over for, you know, my entire life. So I just keep, it's like, you just keep going, baby. It's like the Energizer Bunny. You just keep going. And, you know, when it's all over, it's all said and done. I got a lot of good stories, and I've accomplished. I'm a kid that grew up in Joliet, never really got out of town, didn't know what the hell I was going to do, but I've seen the world. I've played in the NFL. I've flown with the Blue Angels, which was a huge, you know, dream of mine. And then actually getting up on stage and playing a guitar, music in front of people. My next thing is I want to get my pilot's license because that's something I've always wanted to do. You know, I never thought I would be able to do any of this. Never. And that's what, you know, that's kind of it. You keep going. You have your dreams. You have your things that you love to do, the things that you lose time with, right? I always say the word atemporal. So no matter how bad it gets, when I come into this room that I'm sitting in right now and I pick up my Charvel or I pick up whatever the guitars I have back here and I plug into my stuff, I can play for whether it's 15 minutes or an hour. I lose myself, right? I'm not saying I'm any good. I'm just saying I'm into it, right? I'm into it, and I'm just playing along and I'm listening, because you know this. If you're not very good like me, and you want to learn a song, the whole song, you better like that song, because you're going to be listening to it about 1,000,000 times. And by the time you get it down, you're going to hate the song. You're probably going to end up hating it. It's just, you know, it's practice. It's like anything else. But you can get in here and do that and turn knobs and step on switches. And I mean, it's just awesome. And you just lose yourself in it. And then, you know, your fingers start to callus and blister or whatever. You put everything down, you walk out of the room and you're like, the hell was I so upset about an hour ago? Right. That's the Zen that music brings to me now. It was an outlet when I was a kid, you know, and now for me, it's just something I have to do. It's like meditating. It's like anything else. It just brings me back to my center. Even though I'm running around like an idiot when I'm doing it and making noise, right? It's not, yeah.
How did the
Hey, Matty, could you hold on one sec? I gotta flip a switch. I had to turn everything on because my battery was running low. Sorry.
I had to signal my kids to turn the kitchen light on.
Yeah.
I was trying to be coy.
Yeah.
How did the coaching for the Vikings come to be for you after you played?
Right before in 1999, I blew my knee out, so I tore my ACL. Had to have reconstructive surgery, so I lost my 99 season. Ended up having surgery again on it in the summer of 2000. So, you know, it was iffy if I was going to play anymore. But I came back, you know, was back on the team in 2000. And then at the time, Denny called me into his office, and it might've been, I think he called me into my office twice, into his office only 2 times. And he said, you know, when you're done playing, you should think about coaching.
Wow.
And I said, am I done playing now? He said, no, but when you're done, you should think about coaching. And that stuck with me and stuck with me and stuck with me. So in January of 2001, we played in the NFC Championship game against the Giants. We got beat. You know, I had a real bad concussion in that game, and my body was done. It was done. That was it. And so went back to Denny, you know, and Denny said, well, I don't have anything available for you right now. Went to the combine in 2001, met a bunch of coaches and just started networking. And sure enough, a year later, you know, Denny was let go. And then Mike Tice, a guy who I played with, and was an offensive line coach at the time when in 2000, asked me if I wanted to coach, and I said yes. So I moved back up here, and started my coaching career. So I spent 4 years as an assistant coach, did everything from started at quality control, and that's typing up stuff and making sure schedules or whatever. You start from the bottom,
right,
and just work your way up. And I ended up by the time I left being a position coach, and that was an amazing 4 years. I mean, it was loved it, loved teaching, loved coaching, but it's your life now. And I mean, we're talking during the season, 7 days a week. I'd leave my house at 6:15, 6:30 in the morning, and on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, if I got home before 12:30, I was lucky, right? And then so Thursday you get home probably around 7, and then next morning, you're up at the next morning at, again, the same time. And then Friday you have a shorter day, and then Saturday, if you leave, you're out of town. I mean, and if you have a Sunday night game, so next time you watch a Sunday night game or Monday night game, think about, okay, so you have the Giants on the West Coast. They're going to land at 6:15 in the morning, and the coaches just go straight into the office, and you work till 1 o'clock the following, 12:30 the following morning. I mean, it was the pressure and the hours and it was insanity, man. It was crazy, but very rewarding. It's the most competitive. I mean, what could be more competitive than that, right? And that brought it out of you, man. You just, ground away, and that was my 4 years of coaching, and then we get let go, and that's it. So it's the hardest job to get as a coach in the NFL is your second job. That's what they say. You're the first one is hard enough to get, and then that second one's even tougher because you really need to know somebody.
How did these experiences coaching for the Vikings help prepare you for your role as a head coach for Hill Murray?
Quite a bit. I mean, it's prepared me a lot for my time in the booth. As a coach, I spent 2 seasons on the sideline, and if anybody's ever been on a sideline of a football game, it's the absolute worst place to watch a football game is from the sideline. You can't see a damn thing. And then I spent 2 seasons up in the booth, and which is what I do now with the Vikings and the radio. And when you're a player, you know what you do, mm-hmm. and you know how to execute what the coaches call. When you coach, you start learning now why you run certain things, right? Why you have this defense and the bigger picture, of the entire team or game, so to speak. And then the ability to, when you're up there as a coach and you're watching a game up in the booth, just back when we had overheads, and I mean, if there was a route or a play that was messing you up, you had to be able to draw the thing up on site at halftime and show guys what they're supposed to do and what they, so it's that part of it's pretty hectic, and it's, a lot of pressure. You're talking about signaling in personnel and who's in the game. And if you tell the coach that the wrong personnel's in the game and we don't get the right defense in the game, and then, that ends up being a bad play and cost you the game, you technically, cost the team. So, but all those learning the big picture and learning all that was easy. It was good. Then that was what helps me so much in my radio. And then with coaching high school, I love it because, young men and kids in that, 15, 16, 17-year-old range, God, there's just so much that you want to teach them. Right. And because of what I've done, I bring, I've seen this game from every angle. So there's a credibility part of it. And telling them, hey guys, this is what you need to do. And this is what's important in life. And, football's a metaphor for life. And there's so many lessons you can learn on the field that you are going to carry with you no matter what you do or where you go. And that you are going to be a better human being is probably not the right way, but a more prepared human being for what life really is and has for you by going through this process, high school football nowadays has changed so much. It's not, participation. It's not what it used to be. It used to be a rite of passage, right? People's parents would make, you make your kid play football, at least for nowadays, no, those kids come out only because they want to.
Right.
And so it's a little different now. Kids are just different. They're no better or worse than we were. They're just different. They see the world differently. When we grew up, we knew the kids in our neighborhood, right? Nowadays, you get on YouTube or you get on Twitter, you could see some high school linebacker from California and watch video of him, right? The world is shrunk, and kids feel that pressure. And you have to remind them sometimes, you don't have to be the best team in the country. You just have to be the best team in the stadium during the game. That's it. That's another Lou Holtzism right there. There you go. Lou Holtz, right? You don't have to worry, don't be don't be uptight. Don't worry about being the best team in the country. You only have to be the best team in the stadium. And trying to, teach them how to interact and be just so much stuff. The phones are a blessing, but at the same time, they're an anchor. All the social media and the texting, they've lost the ability sometimes, or they just don't have that conversational piece anymore. It's just different.
I hope my kids are listening right now. You heard it. Okay. I want you to talk about the coaches that surround you with Hill.
Okay.
And what do they bring? What do they bring to the field for you?
You talk about high school coaches or like just, yeah. The coaches, the coaches I'm with, they're all in different stages too. My offensive coordinator been a college coach for 30 years. He's an older guy. He's older and grumpy. That's why I like him. You know what I mean? And when you're running a business, or if you're a head coach, you get to pick the people you want around you, and you have the people in different roles that you need, but you recognize them for who they are and what they are. And so Roger Velasquez is my offense coordinator. Like I say, he's been around a long time. He's grumpy, and he knows he's grumpy, but that is what he's an experienced guy. He's been down all these roads a million times, and that's why you love him. And then, I had Jacob Rodriguez is a defensive backs coach that I have, who's a guy who works with his hands. He does flooring and tiling, and he's a construction guy, and is one of the most talented coaches I've seen. And I'm talking about at any level. And here's a kid who, he needs to get back into college and get his degree so he can coach at the college level, because it's a waste. It would be a shame if he didn't go down that path and coach. Now he has to want to do it, and if he does, the sky's the limit. But very, a young guy, just got married, but they bring the enthusiasm, and they keep you young. That's the one thing true too about coaching is, you go out there every day and work with the kids, and some of the younger coaches, you don't get old in that environment, right? You stay young, you keep going. And those, they all my coaches that I had around me, they all represented something a little bit different. They all brought different things to the table. They all had different talents and abilities. And the main thing too is you want to hear them, right? You have these people around you for a reason. You want to hear what they have to say, and base your decisions on the feedback from the people around you. So, but yeah, you definitely, when you're in that kind of environment, you really learn who people are. That's what I tell my players. I say that too. I said you gotta trust each other. Absolutely. Because you're putting your well-being in the hands of the guy next to you and in the hands of the guy next to him, and you may be able to fake it for a day or two, but you'll see pretty quickly if a guy wants to be here and works hard, and establishes that trust factor. And I'm like, you're lucky. You get to put on the uniform, play a game, and then in 2.5 hours, you find out if you were good enough or not, right? Either you win or you lose. I said in real life, if you're doing sales and things, these things could take a year. They could take 2 years. And then when it's all said and done, you don't even know if you won or not, because you don't know what it's going to cost you to make the damn part or whatever it is that you're selling, and then who the enemy is. They're wearing a different colored uniform. They're on the other side of the field. And in real life, we all know that's not the case either. You don't always know who's on your side and who's not on your side. You know what I mean? And so appreciate those things and enjoy them for what they are, because it's just a small window. It's a very Denny Green would call a rarefied atmosphere, right? Thank God it's not everywhere, but thank God, you go through it.
Well, I'd love to partake and see a Hill Murray game one day. See you in action and all your coaching.
Yeah. Let's get you to a Vikings game.
Wow, absolutely.
All right.
I would love that.
I don't know if we don't head out to LA. You're in LA, right? I don't think we head out that way this year.
I'm here.
Oh, you're here.
I'm here in Burnsville.
Oh, Burnsville. Yeah. Good God, that's right down the street.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm here. I'm local, man.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. How did the Vikings?
Roger's going to be. He's coaching at Burnsville this year. He's the offensive coordinator for Burnsville High School.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, he'll be right off of Highway 13 there, baby.
I know it well. Okay. How did the Vikings do in the draft, Pete?
Good. I mean, you get 15 guys. Some of them are going to turn out, but I think
what grade
wide receivers go, pardon me?
What grade would you give them?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's too early. I mean, I think with what they did and what they got, I mean, you an A, B, somewhere, I think they did, as far as how they go about their business in the draft, they do a very good job of that. Okay. So meaning, when the guy that you want, is going to be available, you trade down. And if you want somebody, you trade up. I mean, I think they do, if you want to talk about a grade that way, I think they've done an outstanding job with that over the last couple of years. As far as the talent goes, the Jefferson kid's an amazing talent, but wide receiver is such a hard position to project. I mean, we had Diggs and Thielen, right? And Olabisi Johnson, right? Diggs was a 5th-round pick. Olabisi Johnson was a 7th-round pick.
Right.
Adam Thielen was not a pick. Adam Thielen, fought his way just to get on the damn field. So, 1st-round offensive tackles usually get a pretty good idea. They usually play up to the, it's a little bit easier to project. It's just so hard. We've drafted 5 first-round wide receivers in the last 15 years. The Vikings have. That's more than any other team in the NFL.
Wow.
So we've drafted more first-round wide receivers in the last 15 years than anybody else. And, you look at the ones that have done really, really well. They've been guys that have come up through the system. It's just that position. That position, again, is so – I mean, it's an art form. You know what I mean? It's not just I can run fast, I'm going to get open. No, it's not that at all. You've got to be quick, a precise route runner. You got to know what coverages you're seeing. You have to know the techniques of the corners that you're playing, because those change week to week. I mean, it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder position to play than it looks. Let's just put it that way. Quarterback is the toughest by far. But wide receiver is that's just a tough spot, boy. I tell you that. It is.
With the season schedule being released, what game excites you?
Opening day.
Me too.
Packers.
Me too.
Right. That's always, the game in Lambeau is always one of my favorites. The game in Chicago is always one of my favorites. I grew up a Bears fan, So anytime I get to go to Soldier Field, I just love it. It's going to be fun to go down to Tampa, in December, which will be great. For non-football related reasons, it's going to be fun to head down there someplace warm, But yeah, I think, those are. I'm trying to think. We play Indy in Indianapolis, so it'll be interesting to see that. How that. What they do, with their change with the quarterback, Texans, they're kind of they're just kind of a team. I don't know. They don't have, not a ton of history. It's just it's kind of a weird, anyway.
I think it's going to be
Yeah,
an exciting
those
season.
are those. Pardon me.
I think it's going to be an exciting season with
It is,
that.
and playing New Orleans again down in New Orleans. It's funny how I always love going to Seattle. I love Seattle, right? To go if you're going to ever visit Seattle, you need to go in July, August, in the September, in the fall because the weather's still nice, and then you can go down to Pike Street Market and they have fruit, and it's just the most amazing thing. You can just go, pick up a mango, right, and just take it, go buy a Starbucks because you walk right by 6 of them, and then just sit out there, look at the sound with a cup of coffee and a peach or a mango the size of your head, and just take it in. It's the most amazing. It's just an amazing place. It's a beautiful city. We play out there Sunday night early. So I love going to Seattle, especially early.
I picked one game to go to on the road this year. That was the game I picked.
Smart. It's also a great stadium. People always ask what's your favorite stadiums, and really now I think the U.S. Bank is one of the best in the league. It really is. I mean, AT&T Stadium is bigger, and it's a little more fancy, so to speak. But it's not. It doesn't have that character, that in Seattle. Seattle has that. It's an awesome place to see a game. Awesome.
I hope to get out there. I know we're running late, Pete, but I appreciate you hanging in here. We're rounding the corner. We're almost through. I got a couple more good questions here for you. Being part of the Vikings radio network and calling these Vikings games, what has that experience been like for you?
Yeah, it's been. I've just enjoyed it. I mean, when you come out as a player and then you come out as a coach, when you meet people and talk to people, you kind of like, it's all I do all day. I don't really want to discuss this and talk about it, or, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But now, I enjoy it. I enjoy being able to share the experience with people that when I was playing and coaching, I couldn't, because you're too focused on the game. So now, to be able to take family and friends and go on a road trip, or to see them at a game, or to see them, the night before a game and spend some quality time with them. I mean, being able to share that experience, take them to the game, let them sit in the booth or whatever that is, that's just to have my kids, have them come up and see a game and follow me around for a day. And,
can I
that part of it, sharing that part of it has been the best.
Can I sign up for that?
Yeah. Sure. There's a long list. No, I'm kidding. But no, that part of it has been, that's my favorite part of the whole thing. And I'm still getting it. I get paid to watch professional football, and I have a great seat, good food, the whole thing. It's really, when you look at it from that, I'm blessed. I'm very lucky. I'm very, very blessed and lucky to have the job that I do. And Paul and I have, and Ben and Greg Coleman, we have a hell of a lot of fun doing it.
What is it like to call games with Paul Allen? He is one of the most exciting voices in calling football games.
He's amazingly professional. And you appreciate when you get to when you listen back and the information and the things that he adds in there. Mm-hmm. I mean, just take a step back, because when we sit, it's me, and then there'll be one or two guys, and then Paul, because he sits way on the other side, but he needs to have a spotter and a statistician with him.
Right.
So the ball's on the 27-yard line, and they hand the ball off to Adrian, and he gets taken out of bounds at the other 3-yard line. How many yards is that? Most of us have to. He's saying 67-yard run, boom, boom. The numbers and the stats and that information that he builds in flawlessly with the call it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, the amount of information that he has to manage throughout the call of a football game, and the way he could put all that together. And and use them. When a guy catches a touchdown, it's like, what a homecoming for Stone. Just all these little bits and nuggets and pieces that he throws in there. And he's a horse track guy. He'll tell you that from the beginning. And so he likes to crescendo.
Right.
He likes to start and then build up. And that's his thing. And it's been a joy and a pleasure to sit next to him, because it makes, I think we fit well together, because he, he's the loud and for the most part, minus maybe the Minneapolis Miracle and some other times, I usually keep myself pretty level. But yeah, we play off each other that way.
Well, you guys sound amazing. I always look forward to hearing you guys. Sometimes I turn down the TV and turn up the radio just to listen to you guys, because you make it that much more exciting for the fans.
Thank you. No, it's been to share that. Like I said, it's I love it. I mean, I that's what I love to do, is try, for the fans and for people who watch the game, and not every, people know the game at different levels, but it's just like coaching. You take something very complex and you reduce it down to something as simple as you could possibly get. Because that you might be very book smart, and you sit in a meeting and I got to do this, I got to do that, but you get out there and you're in the game and you're getting beat up and you're tired and you're hot. You only remember so much, and so you have to simplify the game. And that's why I love, because the game on many levels looks complicated, but for the most part, it's a pretty damn simple game. And so being able to bring that out of it, and share that with folks, I mean, I just love doing that. And people know more about football than they think. I mean, they really do. Right. Again, it's a pretty simple game on a lot of levels. Now, I'm not a draft guy, and I don't like all the hypotheticals and all those things about how'd we do, and because you just don't know. But the game itself, how the game flows, those I love talking about that stuff.
Right on. Pete, I want you to think. I want you to think back through your entire sports career to date.
Okay.
I want you to try and pull out your biggest sports accomplishment.
Wow. Oh, that's a tough one. That there's been a lot of ups and a lot of downs, I mean, as a team, 1998 was by far the most amazing thing that I've ever been through, witnessed, took part in. I mean, to be on a team that was 15-1, with the players that we had, that whole year was magical, because the season can be long and miserable, long and miserable. Now, one thing I will say is that in high school, through college, and through my NFL career as a player, I never had a losing season, right? Never had a losing season in high school, never had a losing season in college, and never had one in the NFL either. And 8-8, we were 8-8, I think, in 95 or 96. That was the worst season that I ever went through. And so, I mean, I'm very proud of that, to have been a part of winning teams for the 15 years through high school and college and everything else that I played the game. But 98 was insane. In that one game in Lambeau, kind of early, middle of the season, when we went in the Lambeau, where they had won, I don't know how many games in a row, and just beat the tar out of them. I mean, that one is still probably my favorite football game ever. Really, it was just phenomenal.
Right on. What does the future hold for you, Pete?
I don't know. I don't know. I have my dream job and doing what I'm doing with the Vikings, and I like to do that as long as possible. I have 3 kids. My son is a walk-on at the University of Minnesota. My daughter will be going to Creighton, and then my youngest will be a junior in high school. He's at Holy Angels. So watching them get through high school and then get themselves into college, and then I'm engaged, be remarried pretty soon, and so transitioning into that that part of my life. But the Vikings will always be constant. My goal is to either be on the water or in the air, meaning I'm on the water fishing or I'm flying, one of the two. Those are kind of my happy spots. Yeah, who knows? We'll see.
Pete, I'm going to give you the same opportunity that I give every big name in music. Okay. I have the opportunity to sit one-on-one with, and that is a message to MattyRocks listeners, the viewers who are going to see and hear this interview around the country and around the world. What would you like to say to them?
Don't ever give up. Ever.
Right on.
Never, never, never give up.
Good message. Pete, is there anything that I have left out? Anything that I've left out? Anything you want to add?
No. I mean, this is your show, so whatever, hopefully you covered everything that you wanted to. You know what I mean?
I got some really treasured stories. I can't thank you enough for.
Oh, you're welcome.
For as long as you did. I mean, this is an interview that'll be very near and dear to my heart. So
thank you. It's therapeutic for me too. Not to be selfish about it, but it's just, how often do you get a chance to sit down and really kind of survey? Because I don't know what questions you're going to ask or anything, but you sit down and you're like, okay, this is my life. Like, this is, what's it been like? What have you, what I mean? You don't get that chance too often. So I've enjoyed it because it's given me the opportunity to really think back and go, yeah, what was the hardest things, and what part was the best, and how did I get to where I am now? Which, I'm not saying I'm in the greatest place in the world right now, but I mean, how did I get here? Right. It's like religion and all those other things, and philosophy. It's like, it's not what you believe, it's why you believe it. Right. Even if you walk in a big circle, at least you know why you're standing where you are. You've done the work, that kind of thing. And yeah, that's just, like I said, don't ever give up, man. Just keep going.
Well, hopefully my research made you proud.
Pardon me?
Hopefully my research made you proud.
Oh, no, I was surprised. Very surprised. It was awesome. Thank you.
Right on.
So, I love this. This has been fun. I didn't know that you were, I didn't know that you were local.
Yeah. Local.
We'll stay in touch.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? For sure.
Absolutely.
My buddy Sam Van Moore lives right down by you. The guy's a bass player.
Okay.
From Grace Point. I swear to God, he's unbelievable. I mean, he's ridiculous.
Well, let's all get together for a beer sometime when we can get out there.
All right. So now, how are you? Now, what are you doing with music these days? I mean, how?
I don't play music.
Mm-hmm.
I just 10 years ago, I came into this interviewing stuff and
Okay.
And I started off interviewing the hair metal bands that
yes.
Yes. So I've been going strong with this for 11 years now, and I'm a closet drummer, but
there you go.
But I really, I grew up in a musical family. All three of my brothers played music.
Okay.
All three of my brothers are guitar players.
Nice.
Great guitar players, but I just never had an interest in guitar.
Okay. Yeah.
I was the roadie. I was the band groupie.
Well, that's another thing these days where, with the technology, if you're just a gadget guy, I mean, I have guitars that are way better than I am, right? I can finally afford the guitars that I wanted when I was 13 and 14, right? The Charvels of the world, you know what I mean? The Gibson Explorers of the world. I have a black Gibson Explorer, just like Hetfield used to play, and those guys used to play. The guy from Scorpions. I mean, those, you could finally afford them. And then you get the amps, and then you got the foot pedals and the switches. And if you're like a computer button pusher kind of guy, music's awesome now. I mean, you don't even have to really play much. You can just play 3 chords and then just mess with everything else. The flangers, the phasers, the shifters, the wop. I mean, it just, the technology is ridiculous. So I guess to your point, if you're a tweaker and love to press buttons and, be a roadie and put chords in I mean, that part of it is a blast too. There's so many ways to lose yourself in this hobby. I just love it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, Pete, this is my second and a half sports related interview. And I don't get to do many sports related interviews. So I mean, I'm trying to continue, what I'm doing musically with the music side of the interviews, transitioning into also sports.
Yeah, I think what, like I said before, you're going to find a lot of musicians that want to be athletes and a ton of athletes who want to be musicians.
Absolutely.
It's a very, I wouldn't say close world, but there's not a whole, it's just that there's that mix there. When you're an athlete, that musicians will talk to you because you're an athlete. And if I want to be a musician, it's like, I'll talk football all day long with Gene Simmons, right? Like those guys that you bump into or whatever.
And you did meet him. And you did meet him.
In London, before the London game. So, you meet them and you tell them what you do, and people they'll ask you questions. They'll want to, especially if they're Viking fans, right? If they love the Vikings, then my God, you're in. Right. That kind of thing. And I just want to ask some questions about music and stuff, but I know that's what you do all day long, and you're interested in what I do all day long. And then you just make that intellectual swap or whatever experience. That's that swap, so to speak. It's fun. It's a blast.
Absolutely. I hope to transition this one day, maybe to the Viking sideline one day,
That'd be awesome.
So
I got a guy, I got a guy you may want to talk to who's kind of done that himself. The vikefans.com. We can talk offline or whatever about that, but I'm saying he might be a guy to talk to about it.
Right on. Pete, again, thank you very much for this time.
Thank you.
Continued success to you and everything you've got going on in your sports arena and everything in music. You've heard it here, MattyRocks listeners. Pete Bercich and MattyRocks closing it out. Zoom sessions number 3. Thanks again.
Well, Vikes.
MattyRocks out.
Well, sorry about that. I didn't mean to step on your touchdown call.
MattyRocks out.
That's what I do. All right.